The underestimated species. The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excited chatter. Thousands of alien species filled the floating seats, their eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing a small blue planet in a remote corner of the galaxy. "Order! Order!" boomed High Counselor Zeth Prime, his 6 arms waving dramatically. His purple scales shimmered under the bright lights as silence slowly fell across the chamber. "Today we discuss the newest species to discover faster-than-light travel," Zeth Prime announced. "The humans of Earth." Laughter rippled through the audience. The Craxi delegates clicked their mandibles in amusement. The tall, elegant Etherians merely shook their heads with pity. "Another primitive species," sneered Ambassador Thox of the Dominion fleet. His red eyes gleamed with cruel humor. "They still use chemical rockets and metal ships. How quaint." The holographic display zoomed in on Earth's surface, showing bustling cities, green forests, and blue oceans. To most council members it looked peaceful, almost boring. "According to our scouts," Zeth Prime continued, "humans have only just developed basic warp drives. Their military consists of simple projectile weapons and crude nuclear devices. They pose no threat to any civilized species." More laughter echoed through the hall. The Vorthan war chief, General Krex, stood up. His massive frame cast a shadow over nearby delegates. "These soft creatures," Krex growled. "They have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They live for barely 100 rotations. What could they possibly do to us?" The council erupted in agreement. Species after species stood to mock humanity's weakness. They compared humans to children playing with toys. But in the back of the chamber, one being remained silent. Elder Vax of the ancient Zephyrian race watched the display with troubled eyes. Something about these humans felt different, dangerous even. "I request we proceed with caution," Vax spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. The chamber fell quiet out of respect for the eldest species in the council. "These humans," Vax continued slowly, "they show unusual patterns. They fight among themselves constantly, yet they also save their enemies from disasters. They create beauty and destruction with equal skill. I have seen many species rise and fall. These humans, they remind me of something I hope never to see again." General Krex laughed harshly. "Old fool. You see shadows where none exist. These humans are weak. Watch." The display changed to show human conflicts throughout history. Primitive weapons, simple tactics, small armies. "Look at their wars," Krex pointed. "They fight with metal sticks and flying machines that barely leave their atmosphere. My youngest offspring could conquer their entire planet with a single battleship." The council members nodded in agreement. The evidence seemed clear. Humans were nothing special. Ambassador Thox stood again, his voice dripping with contempt. "I propose we issue the standard ultimatum. Humans will surrender their planet for colonization or face immediate destruction. They have 7 solar cycles to comply." Cheers filled the chamber. Species after species voted in favor. Only Elder Vax voted against, but his single voice was drowned out by thousands. "Motion passed," declared Zeth Prime. "The Dominion fleet will deliver our message to Earth. I expect their surrender within the week." As the council session ended, aliens filed out chattering excitedly about the new colony world they would soon possess. Earth's oceans would make perfect vacation spots. Its mountains would yield valuable minerals. Its forests would be cleared for proper civilization. Only Elder Vax remained in his seat, staring at the image of Earth with growing dread. Meanwhile, light years away on Earth, humanity had just received its first message from space. The excitement was incredible. Finally, proof that life existed beyond their solar system. President Sarah Chen stood before the gathered leaders of Earth's nations, holding a translated copy of the alien message. Her hands trembled slightly as she read. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "we have received a communication from something called the Galactic Council. They are demanding our surrender." Shocked murmurs filled the room. World leaders leaned forward, hardly believing what they heard. "According to this message," President Chen continued, "we have 7 days to evacuate our planet for alien colonization. If we refuse, they will destroy us." The room erupted in angry voices. Some leaders demanded immediate surrender. Others called for military action. A few suggested it might be a hoax. General Marcus Thompson, head of Earth's United Defense Forces, stood slowly. His weathered face showed no fear, only cold calculation. "Madam President," he said quietly, "I recommend we send a reply." "What kind of reply, General?" A thin smile crossed Thompson's lips. "The kind that shows these aliens exactly what humans are capable of when threatened." President Chen nodded grimly. "Draft the message, General. Let's show them who they're dealing with." As Earth's leaders began planning humanity's response, none of them knew they were about to change galactic history forever. The Galactic Council had made the worst mistake in their 1,000-year existence. They had threatened humanity's home. And humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, did not take threats well. The countdown had begun. 7 days until the aliens expected Earth's surrender. 7 days for humanity to prepare for war. 7 days to show the galaxy what happens when you corner the most dangerous predator in the universe. A species with nothing left to lose. The awakening of the sleeping giant. The Galactic Council's message had been received 6 days ago. Around Earth, humanity moved with purpose unlike anything seen before in their history. The threat from space had done something remarkable. It had united every human on the planet. President Chen stood in the newly constructed Global Command Center, deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Around her, the greatest minds from every nation worked frantically at holographic displays. "Status report," she ordered. General Thompson approached, his uniform bearing new insignia, Supreme Commander of Terra Defense Forces. Behind him walked Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's top physicist, and Director James Park of Global Intelligence. "The good news," Thompson began, "is that humanity has never been more united. Every military on Earth now operates under single command. Every scientist shares their research freely. Every factory produces for the common defense." "And the concerning news?" Chen asked. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her tablet showing complex equations. "Their scout ships have been observing us for months. We've analyzed their energy signatures from telescope data. Madam President, their technology is roughly 500 years ahead of ours." Murmurs of worry rippled through the command center, but General Thompson raised his hand. "That's assuming," he said with a grim smile. "They understand what they're really fighting." On the main screen, tactical displays showed Earth's defenses. What the aliens saw were primitive missile silos, basic fighter jets, and simple orbital platforms. What they couldn't see was the transformation happening below ground. Dr. Vasquez activated a new display. "Project Prometheus has been accelerated. We've reverse-engineered their communication technology. We understand their basic energy systems, and we've developed countermeasures." The screen showed blueprints for weapons that hadn't existed a week ago. Kinetic bombardment systems, quantum disruption mines, and something labeled simply as Pandora Protocol. "What's Pandora Protocol?" President Chen asked. Director Park stepped forward, his face grave. "A last resort option, Madam President. If Earth falls, we ensure the aliens regret ever hearing our name." Meanwhile, 50 light-years away, the Dominion fleet approached Earth's solar system. Admiral Vextor stood on the bridge of the flagship Devastator, confident in his overwhelming superiority. "Report," he commanded. "Sir, we're detecting the same primitive emissions as before," reported his tactical officer. "Chemical rockets, basic radio signals, simple atomic energy. No significant military buildup detected." Admiral Vextor's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "As expected, these humans will surrender the moment they see our firepower. Begin long-range scans of their major population centers. Mark the best locations for our colonies." But something nagged at the Admiral. In his 200 years of conquest, species usually responded to ultimatums in predictable ways. They either sent desperate surrender messages or launched pathetic attacks with their primitive weapons. The humans had done neither. Instead, Earth's reply had been short. "We decline your generous offer. Come and take it." The message's casual tone had puzzled the entire fleet command. It showed no fear, no desperation, no attempt at negotiation, just defiance. Back on Earth, the final preparations were underway. In hidden facilities across the planet, humanity revealed its greatest strength, the ability to innovate under pressure. The Prometheus labs had cracked alien energy shield technology. Earth's best engineers had weaponized every piece of space debris in the solar system. And in the deepest bunkers, projects too dangerous for peacetime had been activated. General Thompson received a secure communication from Lunar Base, humanity's secret military installation on the moon. "Ragnarok Station is online, sir," reported Colonel Maria Santos. "All asteroid belt mining platforms have been converted to kinetic launch systems. Project Heimdall reports ready status." Thompson nodded. The aliens thought they were attacking a primitive world. They had no idea they were entering a carefully prepared kill zone that extended throughout the solar system. President Chen joined him at the tactical display. "General, what are our realistic chances?" Thompson was quiet for a moment. "In a fair fight, maybe 10%. But humans don't fight fair, Madam President. We fight to win." As if summoned by his words, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. "Contact," shouted the sensor operator. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our solar system." The main display showed space near Pluto lighting up with alien vessels. Hundreds of ships, each one massive compared to anything humanity had ever built. Admiral Vextor's voice echoed through space on all frequencies. "Humans of Earth. I am Admiral Vextor of the Dominion Fleet. You have refused our generous offer of peaceful relocation. Prepare to witness the power that has conquered 1,000 worlds." The alien fleet began moving toward Earth, their weapons charging with ominous energy. But in the global command center, no one looked afraid. Instead, there was something the aliens had never encountered before: excited anticipation. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving messages from resistance cells on every continent." "They're all saying the same thing, which is?" asked Thompson. "Finally," the general smiled. "Open a channel to all units, global frequency." When the channel opened, Thompson's voice carried across every military installation, every hidden bunker, every space platform humanity had built. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "for the first time in human history, our entire species faces the same enemy. These aliens think they know us. They think we're weak. They think we're afraid." He paused, looking at the alien fleet advancing on their world. "Let's show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." Around the solar system, weapon systems that had been hidden for days suddenly activated. The aliens' sensors began detecting energy signatures they'd never seen before. On the bridge of the Devastator, Admiral Vextor stared at his tactical display in confusion. "Sir," his officer reported nervously, "we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout their solar system. These readings, they don't match any known human technology." For the first time since entering the system, Admiral Vextor felt a chill of uncertainty. What exactly had they gotten themselves into? When giants collide, Admiral Vextor stood frozen on his command bridge as impossible readings flooded his screens. The primitive solar system he'd expected to conquer was lighting up like a war zone. "Sir," his tactical officer's voice cracked with panic, "I'm detecting over 3,000 new energy signatures. They're everywhere." The main display showed the solar system transforming before their eyes. What had appeared empty space moments ago now revealed a maze of hidden weapons platforms, converted asteroids, and ships emerging from the shadows of planets. "Impossible," Vextor whispered. "Our scouts reported no significant military presence." On Earth, General Thompson watched the alien fleet's confusion with satisfaction. "Phase 1 complete. The mice have entered the maze, President." Chen observed the tactical display where red dots representing alien ships were surrounded by thousands of blue dots, humanity's hidden defenses. "My God," she breathed. "We actually pulled it off." Dr. Vasquez nodded grimly. Every piece of space junk, every decommissioned satellite, every asteroid mining platform, all converted to weapons in 6 days. It's the largest military construction project in human history. But their celebration was short-lived. The alien fleet began adapting. "Enemy ships are raising energy shields," reported the sensor operator. "They're forming attack formations." Admiral Vextor had conquered too many worlds to let surprise defeat him. "All ships combat formation." "These humans want a fight," Give them one they'll never forget. The Dominion fleet's main guns charged with devastating energy. Each battleship carried enough firepower to glass a continent. The Admiral opened communications to Earth. "Clever humans," his voice boomed across space. "You've prepared more than we expected. But preparation means nothing against superior firepower. Witness the fate of those who defy the Dominion." The alien fleet fired. Hundreds of energy beams lanced across space toward Earth's hidden positions. The first volley was devastating. Dozens of humanity's converted platforms vaporized in brilliant explosions. But something unexpected happened. Instead of cowering or surrendering, humanity fired back. The response was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of energy weapons or missiles, Earth's defenses launched something far more terrifying: kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. "Sir," screamed Vextor's officer, "incoming projectiles." "They're not using energy weapons, they're throwing rocks." But these weren't ordinary rocks. Each projectile was a carefully crafted kinetic weapon, accelerated by electromagnetic launchers hidden throughout the solar system. When they hit alien shields, the results were spectacular. The first alien ship to be struck, a heavy cruiser, watched its shields flicker and fail under the kinetic assault. The projectile punched through the hull like it was paper, exiting the other side in a shower of debris. "Shields down on the Conqueror," reported the tactical officer. "How is this possible? Kinetic weapons shouldn't penetrate our barriers." Dr. Vasquez, monitoring from Earth, smiled coldly. "That's because you've never fought an opponent who studied your technology first. The kinetic weapons weren't random. Each projectile had been designed based on captured data from alien scout ships. Humanity had spent 6 days learning exactly how alien shields worked and how to defeat them. Admiral Vextor watched in horror as more of his ships took devastating hits. "All vessels evasive maneuvers. Return fire on all targets." The space battle erupted into chaos. Alien energy beams traded fire with human kinetic weapons and crude but effective missiles. But something was wrong. The humans were fighting like they'd been preparing for this war for years, not days. On Lunar Base, Colonel Santos coordinated the lunar weapons platforms. "Target priority Alpha, their flagship. All Heimdall stations fire on my mark." Around the moon's hidden face, massive electromagnetic launchers revealed themselves. These weren't converted mining equipment. They were purpose-built weapons that had been secretly constructed over years. "Wait," Admiral Vextor realized with growing horror. "These installations, some of them are old. They've been planning this." He was right. Humanity's governments had been preparing for this possibility since the first radio signals from space decades ago. The alien ultimatum had simply triggered plans that were already in place. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth, audio only." "Put it through," Vextor ordered. General Thompson's voice filled the alien bridge. "Admiral Vextor, this is General Thompson of the Terra Defense Forces. You seem surprised by our capabilities." "How did you—" the Admiral began. "How did we prepare so quickly?" Thompson continued. "We didn't. We've been ready for you for 20 years. Ever since our radio telescopes detected your scout ships entering our system. The revelation hit the alien fleet like a physical blow. They hadn't been observing primitive humans. They'd been watching a species that knew it was being watched and had been preparing for war the entire time." "Impossible," Vextor protested. "Our stealth technology is superior to anything you possess." Thompson's laugh was cold. "Admiral, you made a fatal error. You assumed that being more advanced meant being smarter. Let me show you what human intelligence can accomplish." At that moment, Phase 2 of humanity's defense began. The asteroid started moving. Throughout the solar system, chunks of rock that the aliens had dismissed as debris suddenly lit up with engine signatures. Each asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a massive kinetic weapon. "Sir," the tactical officer's voice was barely a whisper, "there are thousands of them. They're all aimed at us." Admiral Vextor watched his tactical display fill with incoming threats. This wasn't a battle anymore, it was an execution. But the aliens weren't finished. With desperate fury, the Dominion fleet unleashed everything they had. Planet-killer weapons charged to full power. The fleet's most devastating weapons targeted Earth itself. If we cannot have your world, Vextor broadcast, then no one will. Fire all primary weapons at their homeworld. The energy beams that lanced toward Earth carried enough power to crack continents. For a moment it seemed like humanity's clever. Preparations would be meaningless against such overwhelming force. Then Earth's final surprise revealed itself. Massive energy shield bloomed around the planet, not alien technology, but something uniquely human. Instead of stopping the incoming energy, the shield absorbed it. Shield generators online, reported Dr. Vasquez. Energy absorption at 100% efficiency. President Chen stared in amazement. We're using their own weapons to power our defenses? Every joule of energy they fire at us makes our system stronger, Vasquez confirmed. It's based on their own power systems. We just made it work backwards. Admiral Vextor watched his most powerful weapons not only fail to damage Earth, but actually strengthen human defenses. For the first time in his career, he felt something alien to his nature. Fear. Retreat, he ordered. All ships, immediate withdrawal. But as the alien fleet turned to flee, they discovered humanity's cruelest surprise of all. The exit routes were blocked. Sir, his navigator reported, our faster-than-light engines won't engage. Something is jamming our warp fields. General Thompson's voice returned. Leaving so soon, Admiral. But you just got here. We insist you stay. Around the solar system, hidden stations projected a warp interdiction field that trapped the alien fleet. There would be no retreat. No escape. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just getting started. The hunter becomes the prey. Admiral Vextor's fleet found themselves trapped like animals in humanity's carefully prepared snare. The faster-than-light drives that had brought them here were completely disabled by the warp interdiction field. Status report, Vextor demanded, his voice betraying the first hints of panic he'd felt in decades. Sir, we've lost 23 ships to their kinetic weapons. Our shields are adapting, but barely. More concerning, their jamming field is growing stronger. We're completely cut off from Dominion Command. The Admiral stared at the tactical display. What had begun as a simple conquest was turning into a nightmare. These humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. On Earth, the global command center buzzed with controlled excitement. President Chen watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and horror. Humanity was winning, but the cost would be enormous. Casualties? She asked quietly. General Thompson's expression was grim. We've lost 40% of our outer defense platforms. But that's within acceptable parameters. The aliens lost more ships in the first hour than we've lost installations. Dr. Vasquez approached with new data. Madam President, we're intercepting their communications. They're trying to adapt to our tactics, but they're thinking like conquerors, not survivors. What do you mean? They've spent centuries overwhelming primitive species with superior technology. They've never faced an enemy that matched their innovation with pure determination. As if to prove her point, humanity's next surprise emerged from the depths of space. The converted generation ships revealed themselves. These weren't weapons platforms or converted asteroids. They were humanity's deep space colonization vessels, launched in secret over the past decade and hidden in the outer solar system. But instead of carrying colonists, they carried something far more dangerous. Sir, the alien tactical officer screamed. Multiple massive contacts approaching from the outer system. They're huge. Each generation ship was the size of a small moon, packed with advanced manufacturing equipment and AI-controlled factories. As they approached the trapped alien fleet, their true purpose became clear. They began building. In real time, in the middle of the battle, humanity's generation ships started constructing new weapons platforms, new defense systems, and new ships. The aliens watched in horror as their enemy literally grew stronger while they fought. This is impossible, Admiral Vextor whispered. No species builds warships during battle. General Thompson's voice answered as if he'd heard the comment. Admiral, you're thinking too small. We're not building warships. We're building a manufacturing base that will outfit the entire human species for war. The generation ships weren't just building weapons. They were constructing the infrastructure for humanity's expansion beyond Earth. Win or lose this battle, The human species would never again be confined to a single world, but the aliens weren't finished. Admiral Vextor activated his fleet's most desperate weapon. All ships, prepare for total bombardment protocol. If we cannot escape, we'll destroy everything in this system. These humans will learn the price of defying the Dominion. The alien fleet's weapons charged for a synchronized attack that would sterilize the entire solar system. It was a war crime by galactic standards, but Vextor was beyond caring about rules. Fire everything, he ordered. The combined firepower of 200 alien warships lanced out simultaneously, not at military targets, but at Earth's civilian population centers. Billions of lives hung in the balance, but humanity had prepared for this too. The Pandora Protocol activated. Dr. Vasquez watched her screens with cold satisfaction. Pandora deployment successful. All civilian targets protected. What the aliens discovered was that every major city on Earth was protected by individual shield generators, not to stop their weapons, but to redirect them. The energy meant to destroy human cities was channeled through a planet-wide network and focused into a single, devastating response. Earth's continental plates shifted slightly as massive underground installations fired in unison. The planet itself had become a weapon. The beam that erupted from Earth's North Pole was unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. It wasn't just energy. It was focused gravitational force that warped space-time itself. The beam struck the alien flagship Devastator and simply deleted it from existence. Not destroyed, not vaporized, erased, as if it had never been there. "Devastator is gone, sir," reported the surviving fleet's new commander. "Not destroyed, gone." The remaining alien ships stared at the impossible weapon in terrified silence. In 50,000 years of galactic civilization, no one had ever weaponized gravity itself. But humanity wasn't done demonstrating their capabilities. Colonel Santos activated Luna Base's final protocol. "All units, this is Luna Command. Initiate Operation Excalibur." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden installations revealed their true nature. They weren't just weapons. They were components of a massive machine that spanned billions of kilometers. The entire solar system had been turned into a single, coordinated weapon system. "Sir," the alien sensor operator whispered, "their whole system, it's all connected. Every platform, every asteroid, every space installation, they've turned their solar system into one massive weapon." The surviving alien commander realized the horrible truth. Humanity hadn't just prepared to defend their world, they'd prepared to become something unprecedented. In galactic history, an entire solar system dedicated to war. "Surrender," came a new voice over the communications. President Chen herself addressed the surviving aliens. "You came here expecting to conquer a primitive species. Instead, you've discovered what happens when you threaten humanity's existence." She paused, letting the weight of their situation sink in. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your faster-than-light drives are disabled. You have two choices: surrender and be treated according to galactic conventions of war, or continue fighting and be eliminated." The alien commander looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. Outside, the wreckage of the Dominion's invincible fleet drifted in the void. Earth's weapon systems hummed with barely contained power, ready to complete their annihilation. He began, then stopped. In all his years of conquest, he'd never had to speak this word: "We surrender." The words echoed across space, transmitted on all frequencies for any survivors to hear. The Dominion fleet, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, had been defeated by a species they dismissed as primitives. But as the last alien weapons powered down, General Thompson smiled grimly. The battle was over. The war, however, was just beginning. The galaxy learns Fear 3 days after the battle. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos, unlike anything seen in its 1,000-year history. Emergency sessions had been called as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. High Counselor Zeth Prime struggled to maintain order as thousands of delegates shouted in panic and disbelief. "Order! Order!" he bellowed, but his voice was drowned out by the cacophony. Ambassador Thox of the Dominion stood at his podium, his red eyes wide with terror. The fleet is gone, all of it. 200 of our finest ships destroyed by primitives. Impossible, shouted General Krex. The humans have no technology capable of. We have visual evidence. Thox interrupted, activating a holographic display. This is what remains of Admiral Vex Tor's flagship. The display showed nothing. Empty space where the massive Devastator had been. Not destroyed. Thox continued, his voice hollow. Erased, as if it never existed. Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia stared at the impossible footage. Elder Vax rose slowly from his seat, his ancient voice cutting through the noise. I warned you, he said simply, but none would listen. You couldn't have known this would happen, protested another delegate. Vax turned to face the council, his eyes heavy with the weight of eons. I have seen the rise and fall of 100 civilizations. I recognize the signs in these humans, the same signs that once created the Void Speakers. The chamber fell completely silent. The Void Speakers were galactic legend, an ancient species so dangerous they had been completely eradicated by the combined might of 50 civilizations. You compare these humans to the Void Speakers, whispered High Counselor Zeth Prime. The humans are worse, Vax replied. The Void Speakers sought to conquer through terror. Humans fight to survive, and a species fighting for survival will do anything to win. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was proving Elder Vax's words prophetic. President Chen stood before the United Nations Assembly, but this time every seat was filled with world leaders, military commanders, and the surviving alien prisoners. The threat to Earth is over, she announced, but the threat to humanity is just beginning. General Thompson activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Ladies and gentlemen, we now know we're not alone, and we know our neighbors are not friendly. The display zoomed in on various sectors, highlighting the Dominion's territory, council space, and dozens of other hostile civilizations. Intelligence gathered from captured alien databases shows over 10,000 spacefaring species in our galaxy. Most are members of the Galactic Council. None of them considered us worth talking to as equals. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward with new data. Analysis of their technology shows we can match their capabilities, but not their numbers. The Dominion alone has millions of ships across hundreds of worlds. Then what do you propose? Asked the President. Thompson smiled grimly. We do what humans have always done when facing a superior enemy. We innovate, we adapt, and we strike first. The plan that unfolded was breathtaking in its scope and terrifying in its implications. Humanity would not wait for the next alien fleet. They would take the war to the galaxy. Operation Exodus began immediately. The generation ships that had helped defend Earth were now loaded with volunteers, weapons, and manufacturing equipment. Their destination, strategic points throughout the galaxy. But these weren't invasion forces. They were something far more dangerous, seeds of human expansion that would grow into full military installations. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, emergency reports continued pouring in. Multiple unknown contacts detected in the Vega sector. Strange energy signatures near the Centauri trade route. Our patrol fleet in the Outer Rim has gone silent. High Counselor Zeth Prime realized the horrible truth. They're not staying in their system. They're coming here. Species after species reported the same phenomenon. Humans were appearing everywhere, building hidden bases, intercepting communications, and studying galactic technology. But they weren't attacking. Not yet. General Krex pounded his fist on his podium. We must strike now, before they establish themselves. With what? Demanded Ambassador Thox. They destroyed our finest fleet with weapons we don't understand. How do we fight an enemy that turns entire solar systems into weapons? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the captured human prisoners had been brought before the Council, Colonel Santos from Luna Base. You want to know how to fight us? She asked calmly. You don't. The chamber erupted in angry shouts, but Santos continued. For the past week, you've been asking the wrong question. You keep wondering how to defeat humanity in battle, but that's not what you should be worried about. Then what should concern us? Demanded Zeth Prime. Santos smiled. You should be wondering what we learned from your databases. The implication hit the Council like a physical blow. The captured human ships hadn't just taken prisoners, they had downloaded everything. Military codes, planetary locations, population centers, economic data. Humanity now knew everything the Galactic Council knew about itself. Your species spent thousands of years building a galactic civilization, Santos continued. Impressive, but you built it assuming you would always be the dominant power. Your trade routes are undefended, your civilian populations are unprotected, your military is spread across thousands of worlds. She paused, letting the reality sink in. Humans are predators, counselors, and you've just revealed to us that the galaxy is full of prey. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the Council station. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication channels. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terra Defense Fleet," came a voice that froze every being in the chamber. "By authority of the United Earth Government, I hereby inform the Galactic Council that humanity rejects your authority." The main display lit up with the impossible sight of human warships emerging from faster-than-light travel around the Council station. But these weren't the primitive ships the aliens expected. They were vessels built with captured alien technology, improved by human engineering, and crewed by a species that had spent a week learning how to kill gods. Furthermore, Admiral Chen continued, "We demand the immediate release of all species held in subjugation by Council members, the dissolution of the Dominion fleet, and reparations for the unprovoked attack on Earth." "This is outrageous," shouted General Krex. "You cannot make demands of the Council." Chen's response was delivered with ice-cold calm. "General, 6 days ago you demanded humanity surrender our homeworld. Today we demand you surrender yours. The difference is, we have the power to enforce our demands." As if to emphasize the point, the human fleet's weapons powered up. The energy signatures were unlike anything in galactic databases, hybrid technology that combined alien science with human innovation. Elder Vax stood slowly, his voice heavy with resignation. "How many of you are there?" "On our ships? About 50,000, Chen replied. "But that's not what you should be asking." "Then what?" "You should be asking how many humans are already on your worlds." The Council chamber exploded in panic as the truth became clear. While they had been focused on Earth, humanity had been infiltrating the galaxy. Human operatives were already in place on dozens of worlds, ready to act when given the signal. High Counselor Zeth Prime looked at the human fleet surrounding his station, then at the species representatives who were beginning to flee the chamber in terror. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Admiral Chen's answer would echo through galactic history. "Peace, Counselor. On our terms, the age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun, and it had started not with conquest, but with a simple truth the Galactic Council had forgotten. Never threaten a species. Children, unless you're prepared to face their parents' wrath, the galaxy would never be the same." Epilogue. A new dawn 1 year later. The Galactic Council chambers bore little resemblance to the arrogant assembly that had once dismissed humanity. Half the seats sat empty. Species had either fled to distant regions of the galaxy or voluntarily dissolved their governments rather than face human reorganization. Elder Vax, now serving as interim High Counselor, called the session to order with a heavy heart. "Today marks the first anniversary of what historians are calling the Terran Revolution," he announced to the sparse assembly. "Let us review what has changed." The holographic display showed a galaxy transformed. Where once the Dominion had ruled through fear, human-protected trade routes now ensured safe passage for all species. Where Council species had enslaved primitive worlds, human liberation fleets had freed billions of beings. But the cost had been enormous. "The Dominion fleet no longer exists," Vax continued. "General Krex's homeworld is now a human protectorate. Ambassador Thox's species has requested membership in the new Terra Alliance." In the human section of the chamber, a new addition that still made many aliens uncomfortable, Admiral Chen sat quietly. Her uniform now bore the insignia of Supreme Commander of Allied Forces. "What troubles you, Elder Vax?" she asked, sensing the old being's distress. Vax turned to face her with ancient, weary eyes. "You have done exactly what you promised, Admiral. You brought peace to the galaxy. But I fear we have simply exchanged one form of tyranny for another." Chen stood slowly, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. "Elder, may I address the assembly?" Vax nodded, stepping aside. "Fellow beings," Chen began, "I understand your fears. For thousands of years, peace in this galaxy has been maintained through domination. The strong ruled the weak, the advanced enslaved the primitive. You expect humans to follow the same pattern?" She paused, looking around at the various alien faces watching her with mixtures of fear, hope, and suspicion. "But you're wrong about us. Yes, we are dangerous. Yes, we can destroy any of you. But humans have something unique. We remember what it's like to be the underdog." The display changed to show Earth as it had been a year ago. A single world, isolated and threatened. Every human knows the fear of being outgunned, outnumbered and dismissed as irrelevant. We will never inflict that feeling on another species. A delegate from the Vorthan Federation stood up. "Pretty words, but how can we trust you? Your fleets patrol our space. Your bases control our trade routes. Your technology watches our every move." Chen nodded. "Fair questions. Let me answer with actions." She activated her personal communicator. "This is Admiral Chen to all Terra Defense Forces. Execute Order 7734. Across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Human fleets began powering down their weapons. Military bases started converting to civilian infrastructure. The vast network of surveillance systems that had kept the galaxy under human observation began shutting down." "What are you doing?" whispered Elder Vax in shock. "Keeping a promise," Chen replied. "We told you we wanted peace on our terms. Our terms were simple. No more slavery, no more conquest, no more bullying primitive species. Those terms have been met." The chamber erupted in confused voices. Species that had lived in fear of human retaliation for a year watched in amazement as their oppressors voluntarily gave up power. But Chen wasn't finished. "However," she continued, her voice carrying a subtle warning, "let me be absolutely clear. We are not withdrawing from the galaxy. We are not returning to our single solar system. Humanity is here to stay." The display changed again, showing human colonies scattered throughout the galaxy. Not military bases, but civilian settlements. Families, scientists, artists, and traders, humans building lives alongside alien species. "We're not your rulers," Chen explained. "We're your neighbors. And like any good neighbors, we'll help when asked, defend when threatened, and intervene when someone is being hurt." A small, timid delegate from a species that had been enslaved by the Dominion raised her hand. "What if someone tries to rebuild the old ways? What if a species decides to conquer others again?" Chen's smile was gentle, but her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Then they'll discover that humans have very long memories and no patience for bullies." The message was clear. Humanity wasn't imposing rule, they were imposing responsibility. Any species could govern itself however it chose, but no one would be allowed to harm others. Elder Vax stared at the human admiral with something approaching awe. "You're creating something that has never existed in galactic history." "What's that?" "True peace. Not the peace of conquest or domination, but peace through mutual respect and shared consequence." Chen nodded. "It's called civilization, Elder Vax. We're just helping it along." As the session continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. Former slave species were building their own governments. Trade routes that had been monopolized for centuries were opening to all. Scientific discoveries were being shared freely instead of hoarded for advantage. But perhaps most significantly, other species were beginning to act like humans. When a crisis struck the Outer Rim, it wasn't human ships that responded. First, it was a joint fleet of former enemies working together. The galaxy was learning humanity's most dangerous trait, the willingness to help others become strong. "Enough to challenge you, Admiral," Elder Vax said quietly as the session ended. "I have one final question." "Yes." "What happens when humanity faces a threat it cannot handle? What happens when you meet a species more dangerous than yourselves?" Chen looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's massive windows. Somewhere out there, Beyond the rim of known space, other galaxies waited with their own civilizations and their own dangers. "Then we'll do what humans have always done," she replied with quiet confidence. "We'll innovate, we'll adapt, and we'll make sure our children have a better chance than we did." She turned to face the elder with a smile that would have terrified the old Galactic Council, but somehow comforted this new assembly. "And if that fails, we'll teach our enemies the same lesson you learned, which is never underestimate the species that turned a single solar system into a weapon just because someone threatened their home." As the various delegates filed out of the chamber, each returning to worlds that were safer, freer, and more prosperous than they had been a year ago, Elder Vax remained behind. He stared at the holographic display showing the galaxy at peace, the first true peace it had known in millennia. And at the center of it all, a small blue world whose inhabitants had proven that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't the strongest predator. It was the protector willing to become one. Age of human dominance hadn't been imposed through conquest. It had been earned through something far more powerful: the trust of those they protected and the fear of those who would harm others. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's retaliation. But more importantly, it had learned to trust humanity's protection, and in the end, that made all the difference. The end author's note. This story explores the HFY humanity genre's core theme, that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our willingness to fight for others and our refusal to abandon those who need help. In the end, the galaxy didn't submit to human rule. It chose to live by human values, and perhaps that's the most powerful victory of all.